All for being here this afternoon. This is a desperately sad day in many ways, and later on there will be a further demonstration concerning the war, the new war that we're involved in this country. But this part of this afternoon is very much concerning nuclear power and the nuclear industry as a whole. What happened in Japan is obviously absolutely tragic and terrible in every conceivable way. The earthquake happened. The following tsunami happened. Power stations have been severely damaged. There is continuing meltdown, there are radiation leaks, and there's a massive shortage of power for the whole country. Crops are already polluted, radiation levels have gone very high around the reactors, and one can only speculate as to the number of people that have already been seriously damaged, health has been seriously damaged by the radiation leaks. It is a dreadful situation, and one can admire the bravery of those that have remained in the power stations to try to control what's going on. But this beggars a very much bigger and very much larger question. The nuclear industry has told us, well, it's exceptional, it was an earthquake, it was a tsunami. They said the same about 3 Mile Island. They would have said the same about Windscale in 1957, but we weren't allowed to know about it, and they certainly said the same about Chernobyl. And whilst one can obviously question what on earth was going on through somebody's mind to place a series of nuclear power stations at exactly the junction of two tectonic plates on this planet, you think, well, what on earth was going on there? I urge you to think a little bit more deeply about this as well, because clearly the earthquake and the tsunami are a major problem. The reactors themselves were not destroyed by the earthquake or the tsunami. It was the supply systems, the cooling system, the distribution system, and all the other support facilities that are vital to maintain a nuclear power station that were destroyed. And so it's not just a question of that danger, it's a question of the danger of nuclear power stations themselves. Put it a different way, I hope nobody ever does, but if somebody went and put a bomb outside Sizewell or Dungeness, and that probably would not damage the reactor itself, it would certainly wreck the distribution system, the cooling system, the supply system, and everything else. That would not be largely different to what has actually happened in Japan at this very moment. And so we have to ask ourselves some very serious questions about how we've got into a situation where so many countries around the world are developing nuclear power stations, why the nuclear power industry and lobby is so incredibly powerful in this country and elsewhere, that country after country builds nuclear power stations knowing full well they rely on somebody else for the uranium to supply them, they rely on somebody else for the technology to service them and maintain them, and every power company that builds a nuclear power station seems to imagine that it's the duty of the rest of us, i.e. the public and public expenditure, to pay for the decommissioning costs many years later. There's nothing cheap, nothing clean, nothing that you can call subsistent or sustainable about nuclear power stations and the nuclear power industry. I've watched the debate in Parliament go on over the years, and every time something comes up about nuclear power and nuclear safety, all kinds of experts crawl out from goodness knows where, and the executive breakfasts are held, the drinks parties are held, the dinner parties are held, and the lobbyists appear and tell us all it's absolutely safe and it couldn't ever possibly happen here. Well, the problem with nuclear power and nuclear waste is it doesn't recognise national borders. How inconvenient of it. When that terrible disaster happened at Chernobyl in 1985, the fallout, the damage, the pollution affected all of Northern Europe, including this country, including Ireland, for many years afterwards. And there is still a 100-kilometre exclusion zone around Chernobyl in the Ukraine. That is how dangerous nuclear power is. If the Romans had had nuclear power, there would now be barbed wire around every Roman remains, because it would still be dangerous from nuclear waste. There is no hiding place from it. So I conclude with this thought. Yes, we have energy needs. Yes, we have to find power from somewhere. And yes, we need generation of electricity by some means. I have two answers to this. One is look seriously, more deeply, more intelligently at sustainable uses, at hydropower, wave power, sun power, and all the other things. Require every new building that's put up to have photovoltaic cells included in it, all those kind of things. But the other question is, we use too much, we produce too much, we waste too much, and we're ruining this planet in the whole process. So it's just possible that suddenly an advanced industrial country like Japan, having been faced with this disaster only a matter of really a few days ago, will begin to think, well, hang on a minute, is it such a good idea to build an economy around waste, to build an economy around excessive use of energy and everything else? Isn't it time we started looking at ourselves and looking at the way we run the economy and run the world? Yes. This is a really serious warning lesson to all of us. What's happened in Japan is not exclusive to Japan. My heart goes out to those people, but it could also happen here. That's why I say no nuclear power, decommission the stations we've got, and let's have an intelligent energy policy based on sustainability, not destruction. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Jeremy. Our next